It's a great place to work, but everyone's leaving. Now, before I go ahead and talk about my insights, I want to tell you where these insights come from, right? We celebrated a milestone in the last 12 months, few milestones. First of all, Sandbox penetrated and is now working with 20% of the LMD 100, right, which is great for us. And we also marked yesterday the delivery of 3,000 million rupees worth of verified results through our leadership development programs in the last 24 months. So I know some of you CEOs and guys running billion-dollar corporations must be thinking 3 billion, no big deal, but ask a head of HR, 3,000 million bucks return for a trading program, big deal, right? And I also celebrated 20 years in teaching last year, right? So 3 milestones in the last 12 months. I know, I'm 21, I started teaching when I was 2. These insights come from us talking to your people. Now, at every table, I have a client, right? All of you know who you are, right? And I get to talk to your people more than you, right? Last 6 months, I spoke to 400 managers. 400, right? Sometimes I ask managers, do you have time to talk to your people? And they say, yes, yes, I do. I said, name a Gen Z that you spoke to. Give me 3 names. It's like this, Angelo. I know sometimes I don't talk to them personally. So then I tell you, this is the problem. This is the problem. You have time for everything, but you don't have time to talk to your people. And you need consultants like us to come and charge you a lot of money to tell you what your people are thinking. Yeah, that's the truth. So the content that I'm about to share with you is adult content. It's explicit content. But this is not naked pictures of people that I'll be sharing. These are naked thoughts of people. Things that will make you uncomfortable, right? Because if we are to address why this is happening, then we need to speak about the elephant in the room. Now, I'm going to teach you 3 principles. I'm going to talk to you about 3 principles that I want you to take home. The first one is this: understanding changing priorities. I spoke to my mother today, before I came here, my mother, and she constantly tells me something before she keeps the phone. You know what she tells me? Yeah, when are you going to stop this consulting thing and get like a real job, huh? She wanted me to be a lawyer. Some of you know I quit being an attorney at law to do this. It's not bad. It's not bad, right? But my mother still thinks I should have been a lawyer, right? And this reminded me of changing priorities, because for me to build this company and come here and work with you lot, I had to do something 20 years ago, right? I had to leave home. Some of you know my story, right? Because my mother thought and my parents thought that doing teaching wasn't a real job, because they hadn't seen this part of it. They hadn't seen that I'll be representing 20% of the LMD 100, working with 80% of the Fortune 500 brands that work here, right? No. That was not part of the story. It was, you are going to be a teacher and you are going to earn 15,000 rupees a month and stay in this room, in this house, and become a burden to all of us, right? So they couldn't see the future I had in my mind. But you know what I did? What did I do? I left. And this is my segue into the data that I'm about to tell you, right? You're asking this question, where are they going? Where are they going? Every head of HR that I talk to, what do they say? They're going. Everyone's going. All the talented people are going. We can't stop them. Why are they going? Why are they going? Are they going because you have a shoddy workplace? That's why I use that phrase. No, you all have great places to work. And I'm not talking about the certification. I'm talking about generally a great place to work, right? And you have them, but they're still leaving you, right? This is because perhaps you are not listening to what they are saying. Can it be, you think? You think you're not seeing the signals. You're too way up there, right? Listening to various theories, but you're not listening to what they're saying. Like my parents probably didn't listen to what I was saying. So it's a personal story. I told you, it's explicit adult content, naked thoughts, right? Now, this is a phrase I hear very often. Have you heard this phrase? 60 is the new 40. When someone told me this, there was a problem with this statement. The first problem was the person who told me was closer to 60 and I'm closer to 40. So for him, it was great news. Hey, Angelo, 60 is the new 40. And I'm thinking, no, man, no, 60 is 60, 40 is 40. Let's get moving. Let's move. Okay? And this is something I want you to understand is part of the problem. This is what people are thinking. 30 is the new 60. This is language of people who believe that work life ends with retirement. And the idea of retirement floats somewhere in the space between 55 to 60. Right? Go back 15 years, you ask a well-equipped corporate professional, what are you planning on doing? If they were bordering 50, they say, Machang, when I'm retired, I have this idea, starting this farm, and just chilling out. So when I'm retired was when the life actually started. That's where everything was going. But things are changing. Things are changing. The age is coming down all the way. Where is it going? It's going to 30. Have you met people who want to retire when they're 30? Yeah, you should talk to some of your people. You should really ask when you send them that job, say, hey, our company is a fantastic company, come to work for us. You are thinking, if I pay them enough, if I create the environment, if all my culture and everything is great, they are going to hang around. But they have other plans. They have plans. They have plans like this. This is an illustration, because I have the privileged point of view of talking to all these generations in my line of work. This is an illustration, right? Now, all the baby boomers I have spoken to, some of them are in their 80s. They're still working. They're still coming to work. They're still energetic like they were in their 20s. But things have changed, but still they're coming to work. The idea of retirement and switch off does not exist. Because every time they see 50, they thought 60. When they saw 60, they thought 70. When they saw 70, they thought 80. So they're still around. They're still around. Then we meet the Gen Xers, most of you perhaps, right? Somewhere hovering between the late 40s and the mid-50s, right? When I talk to Gen Xers, what they tell me? I don't think I'll be hanging around till 55. Look around you. Look around you. Look at your LinkedIn profiles. Look at your colleagues who have left the country, left fantastic jobs they've been doing for 20 years. What's the age? When are they quitting? Just before 55. Making the big change. Because the bank balance is big enough to do that. Excellent. Right? That's this side. You want to know what's happening on this side? The millennials, my generation, you ask them, what's up with work? You know what they say? Or what they said? I want to retire when I'm 40. Yeah, all the millennials in this room are going, yeah, man. That's what I said. I want to retire when I'm 40. So they might be working, most of us, the older millennials are bumping into 40 now. You might see them working somewhere in their early 40s. But the moment they see 40 on the horizon, you know what's happening? Switch off. It's time to make the big change. So these are beyond your control sometimes. They're beyond your control. They're things happening in their mind. But now the interesting part is when you talk to the youngest group, the Gen Zs, who are in their 20s. Oh boy. One person asked if I was too old because I'm bordering 40. Oh, he's old, no? He's 40. Oof. I know, right? He said, he's old. Oh, the guy was so old. He was like 40. Oh. They're thinking of retiring when they're 30. And you know what you're doing? You're planning to keep them and make them CEO and they're like 42. And these are the plans you have. Man, they're long gone. Huh? They are gone so far you can't see them. And some of these are your kids. Yeah? Where are they? You try to sell them this idea of a job today. You try to sell them this idea. You know what they're going to tell you? They'll tell you, Mom, Dad, that's not for me. That's for you. I have different plans. And this is the problem I want you to think of. The priorities are changing. There is no more retirement. There is switch off. And switch off is happening at these ages. Right? And Sri Lanka just is experiencing the start of this. Right? These are wildly different generations. These generations live to work. I know some of you don't. But this is the perception. This is the brand that has been created. Live to work. Legacy. Active income. These guys are passive income earners. They don't want to work hard. They want to automate their income. And they're doing it just fine. I recently spoke to a manager. He told me, I had a niece who was earning 90,000 rupees and she was 20 years old from her room working for a company in Australia and I didn't know. Because I went to tell her there was an internship at my company. And he said, I just walked away. I just walked away. Right? So this is something for you to think about. Has your organization thought of this? Is it prepared? Because this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like, right? So all of these priorities, purpose, walk the talk, live life now, not when you're 55. These are the priorities of a generation that you are looking to employ and who are constantly thinking employment is a bad deal, right? And that's why some of these things are getting rejected. Now, the second point, right? From competing for culture to competing with culture. Now, when I look at this whole culture piece, I see a lot of organizations living in this bubble. Hey, look at us, we are great, come and work for us. We are great, right? We are great. Right? That's my title. We are a great place to work, but everyone's leaving. Right? And why is this happening? Because people don't make decisions only based on your organization. They make decisions based on your country. They make decisions based on your industry. They make decisions based on an individual purpose. Now, if all of these four things align, you will have the highest probability of retention. That's when all the stars align, right? But it's not happening. Why? 8 out of 10 people will leave the country if they get the slightest chance. That's the word on the street. That's the word on the street. You talk to anyone and ask them. And that word, the slightest chance, is very important. That means they are 1 foot out already. That's why a lot of HR managers started getting letters that they're leaving because the visa applications got processed. Some didn't know what to say, so they just hung around. How do I know? Many leadership programs that I go to start with an X number of people, and in the middle I can see top talent that have been selected saying goodbye. So I'm sharing this with you because you need to know, right? 6 out of 10 people believe the industries are aging and will not exist in the next 10 years. There was a PwC report, and I believe the number of CEOs that answered in that report saying that their industries may not exist in the next 10 years were somewhere in the 40s or 50% range. It's a large number of people running organizations who believe that those organizations and those business models will not exist in the next 10 years. So people are afraid that the industry will not be there. Then, the biggest question in the young people's mind, is employment a bad deal? Like I told you, that guy who went into the room to give the niece an internship opportunity, learned that the niece is earning almost as much as a assistant manager or senior executive in the company, turned back and went and said, oh, you do that, that's great, yeah. I'm just going to go and tell my HR that this door is closed. Right? So these 3 things are things that you need to think of. I'm here to open your eyes and tell you there is more to this, right, under the carpet if you get to talk to people. I told you, I get to talk to them, so I'm sharing what they tell me. Third one, move from culture assumption to culture articulation. Now, every time I meet a team to talk about culture, I ask them, do you have a great culture? You know what they tell me? Yes, of course we have a great culture. Okay. I tell them, if I ask 3 random people in your team, right, to explain your culture to me, are you going to tell me that they are going to give me the same answer? And they immediately say, no, obviously not. Right. Now I tell them, imagine this culture was your product. Imagine this culture was the product that you sold in the company. How happy are you going to be if I ask 3 people who are in charge of the product to tell me about their product, and I got 3 varying answers? Not good, right? You won't be happy about that. And that's the point I'm trying to make. Culture is a product you make for your people. It is the most important product you make in your organization, but we never look at it as a product because we can't see it, we can't visualize it, we imagine it, and we imagine it's good, we imagine it's great from our point of view. Now, I'm going to visualize a culture for you, but before that, these are the stats that I saw. From this room, 24% of participants told me that their leadership and their entire organization may be able to articulate their culture very well. 24%. That means 76% of this room felt that they couldn't do that across the organization. When I meet teams, and I have met over 100 teams specifically for culture, 90% of them start off their day telling me this, that they can't articulate it in one voice, and they need help. They know the idea, they kind of know what it is, but they just can't say it. They just don't have the words, right? And that's why you need to be able to visualize it. Culture is basically two simple things. You fight between flexibility and control on one axis. That means, do we wear shorts to work, or is it tie and suit? Then we fight over internal focus and integration versus external focus and differentiation. So are we going to be the Birkin bag of cultures who doesn't care how many people buy this bag because they're just going to make it the same way they made it in the 80s? Or are we going to be the Apple and the Google of culture who constantly keep asking people, do you think our product is okay? Do you think it's good? Can you give me 5 stars? So this is culture. Culture exists between these extremes. Now, when you visualize a culture, I'm going to take Apple as an example. This was Apple in the 80s. Steve Jobs has just started it. Highly entrepreneurial. Why? Very flexible, and external focus was high. Right? Great culture to have for a startup. And all companies go through this. But as Apple transformed by 84, they had gone public, they had launched the Macintosh. They were a strong clan by this point. They had a high focus on internal integration and flexibility, as well as external focus and differentiation. So they had the family type culture going for them, and they had the entrepreneurial type culture going for them. Now, families aren't great cultures. You know, a lot of companies call their companies families. They say, we are like a family. Do you know how many families are in court? You don't know families like that. In court, fighting each other over land and property. You know how many families tolerate people who take drugs, who abuse their cousins? I told you this is an adult content session. Huh? You know that? So family is not a good thing. Huh? Workplaces are not families. And the younger generation is firmly believe in this. And they say it. If you look at the zeitgeist, which is TikTok today. Right? So I'm going to make a big jump to assume that you all are not heavy TikTokers. I'm going to assume that TikTok is not on your big app list. But if you go on it, just go on it, everybody is talking about how big a red flag it is to join a company that says, we are like a family. They say, don't join. They're going to keep you forever. Don't join. That's not what it's supposed to be. Because people now want to come to work in the morning, and they want to go home to their real family, their actual family. 20 years ago, everything in the company was family. I've seen people like that. My God, they had work on Sunday also. They had work on Sunday, they had work on Saturday, they had the weddings of all the employees. Goodness gracious me. Yeah, I believe you when you say company is a family. You have nowhere else to go. You're here all day long. But the new generation don't think like that because they were brought up by you. Probably who got tired of that. You know, they were brought up by you who got really tired of that, a big company and all functions all day long. So they said, Puta, you never do this. Son, don't grow up to be like me. And they did exactly that. So now they're telling, don't tell me that your company is a family. I'm not going to come there. That's what's happening here. Steve Jobs made this a family. When he made this a family, he started an internal war between the Lisa team and the Macintosh team. Macintosh team were the blue-eyed boys, blue-eyed girls, right? And what happened? Things started collapsing, right? He had to go. And they hired John Sully, right? And John Sully brought in a lot of control and stability and internal focus, meaning policy. So startup became a company that is driven by policy. This was very bad for Apple. Because Apple was scraping the bottom of the barrel by the end of the 90s. They were almost bankrupt. I don't know whether you know the story. Right? Jobs joins Apple back in 1997. a different man, grown, built two good companies, Next and Pixar, and he comes back to this culture, highly control-oriented culture. So everything is policy, 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 and everything is KPI, KPI, KPI. That's what you see on the other side. And he makes it this. In comes Johnny Ive, in comes the iPhone, in comes the iPod, right? And he does that by reducing controls, reducing family type, focusing on entrepreneurship and risk-taking, and focusing on the market and what the market wants. So at every single time in this journey, this company, Apple, becomes a different company. These are different companies. 1984, 1986, 1990. These are different companies, completely different companies. So can you tell me that someone in Apple should say, we have a great culture that we have built over 40 years? Inaccurate. We have about 6 cultures that we have built over 40 years. And every 5 to 6 years it changes. That's the right answer, right? And we let go of the previous one and we embrace a new one. And that's what you need to know. And to do that, you need to be able to visualize. So this is a visualization done on our tool, Culture Pulse, based on what millennials think. Now, you don't need to read through every graph, just look at the pictures. Red means what they feel is happening now. Blue means what they want. And this is the culture broken down into 6 dimensions on our platform. And you can see, you don't need to read into the data, you just can see the pattern. It's a complete flip of what is going on now. These are millennials. These people are in their 30s, bordering 40, okay? So you can see this. This is real-time data, fantastic stuff. So, simple 3 points for you to remember. Remember, the priorities are changing, right? It's no longer 60 is the new 40, it is 30 is the new 60, right? Remember that you need to stop competing for culture, right? It's not about how great your place is. It's about how much all of you are willing to collaborate to build the culture Sri Lanka needs. Because people aren't leaving your company, I'll be very honest with you, they're leaving Sri Lanka, right? And Sri Lanka is also a culture, right? And that culture cannot thrive if everyone in this room decides to build their own fort and fight their own fight and try to make their own place great without thinking of how to collaborate across the board. And finally, the most important thing, move from assuming what this great culture is to truly visualizing it with state-of-the-art information and data. And we'll be happy to help you. So thank you so much. I hope I opened up your mind. Have a great evening.